Andrew, the Toolman Lens, and always joining me is Johnny Borland.
Thanks for having me, Tim.
Yeah. and, and this is uh the rebirth of Did We Need This? And if you couldn't tell, we are talking about, and I just found out it's not just called Home Improvement.
No, it's got a whole name after that.
Yeah, Home Improvement Power Tool Pursuit, as we do this on Did We Need This? And if you're wondering, what is Did We Need This? If you didn't watch, what do we do? Three? Yeah, three.
Yeah.
Uh,
Three critically acclaimed episodes
yes.
of this show.
I gotta re-release those as bonus episodes.
Yeah. We
in
should
podcast form.
we figure out to do like a pop-up video of them where we'll just pop up.
But this is where we take a licensed video game from TV shows, movies, cartoons, and we look back on it and say, did we really need this in our life?
Yeah. And today there was it's a video game based on one of the biggest sitcoms from the 90s ever. This thing was a ratings behemoth. It was always at the top of the charts. The actors became household names. The kids were always on the covers of magazines. This show was just in the mainstream like crazy. My family definitely consider this appointment television, Home Improvement.
Yes. I would have, yes. Put Wilson into the mainstay of talking to your neighbor over the fence, gave that kind of a name for when you talk, when fathers or anything talk over the fence to each other. You're doing like a Wilson. Pamela Anderson was famously on this show.
That's right. Yeah. Also, my favorite things would be the back and forth between Tim and Al. Those are some of the best jokes in the show. In fact, like there's certain lines from movies and shows that just always stick in your mind. And I don't know why this one's the one that sticks in my mind, but there's a Christmas episode of Home Improvement where they're in a church and for a Christmas program, and Al shows up, and Tim was wondering why he was there because it's supposed to be Noel instead of Noel.
You know what I was thinking about it? We would have that. I think this is twisted the way that we did it. I think I would be Andrew Borland and you'd be Johnny the Toolman Townsend.
I am pretty accident prone, so that makes sense to me.
Well, no, I feel like I'm more of the straight man and you're more of like trying to make the joke, and I'm like, I don't think so, Johnny.
That's probably fairly accurate. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I have a lot in common with Tim the Toolman Taylor. I also was a snitch to get out of jail after dealing cocaine.
I was about to say, I was like, were you smuggling cocaine?
Just once, and I don't want to talk about it anymore.
As long as it wasn't barbecue or Reba CDs, we're good. All right. So, Home Improvement, the Power Tool Pursuit.
Andrew, just a side note. I was a part of a fairly popular retro gaming podcast.
No, weren't.
Called Trevor Franklin, the host of that show, would allow me to be on there, and I was very grateful for it. It's called Retro Bliss, and we did do an episode on this game. So I can't remember what we scored it, but I do remember thinking some thoughts that I'll bring up here because they came rushing back to me as I was trying to refamiliar myself with this game. And man, I gotta say, there's just some stuff that I'm like, there were so many video games that came out in the 90s that I felt were like almost there, right? But they didn't get there. They're almost there. And I feel like this is the Home Improvement video game, oddly enough for me, is like the definition of that. Well, it's okay.
I got my
The best part of this though is, you know, one of my favorite memories, Andrew, and I think you said that you would do this too, is when my parents would let me rent a video game and I got to open it and it actually had the manual inside.
yes.
That was one of the greatest things ever. Reading through the manual, man, that was so fun.
Not
And the
with
great thing about the internet today is you can go back and actually find people have scanned and put up pretty much every manual. It's like I'm going to look at the manual for this game because I had forgotten that the manual for this game, Andrew, and this is true, just so everybody knows, is you open it up and it says men don't need manuals.
it's so bad.
And I got to tell you, this game needed a manual.
Yes, it did. But pretty much the plot of the game is a special broadcast of Tool Time.
Yeah.
Tim Taylor prepares to unveil a new Binford ultra power tool line named after him. The Binford Taylor Turbo Power Tool Line. He then
Yeah.
goes to retrieve the tool only to discover that they're missing. A note is left in their place, demanding Tim traverse the different sets where the show is being filmed. This is 2D platform. You get various power tools as your weapons, and they all suck very, very much.
It's not only that they suck, but the enemies take a million hits.
Oh my goodness. So I did not get past the first level.
I
Have you gotten it? Did you get any farther?
No, but I do remember that when Trevor and I played it, we did get, I want to say, to the third world, if I'm thinking correctly, or third studio, whatever you want to call it. But I did go back because I would always do this on a game that we just weren't going to finish. I would go back and watch video of somebody playing it who finishes it. And I did do that, but yeah, this game is actually, it's a platforming game.
That hurts. I feel a little bit.
I'm a sucker for a platformer. I love, that's one of my favorite genres of video game. The premise of it I think works. If you're going to do a video game about home improvement, this is probably the direction to go. Is is that he's got to go through and collect tools. It's all very much tool based. I like that it's almost like breaking the fourth wall in a way because he's going through all these studios and stuff. It's, for me, the main issue is it's basically, this is something that people would take a drink if I'd say it on Retro Bliss. This is basically a maze game.
I agree with you. It is a where do I go now game.
Yeah. And that when you take a platformer and you do that with it, that just sours it for me. That is not a fun experience, I don't feel. And this does that. But I will say, Andrew,
it's a leap of faith most of the time.
Yes.
That's what frustrated me a lot.
And it's not like Sonic where if you have rings, you take a leap of faith. You at least got a chance.
Yeah, like is your power the actual like nuts and bolts that you pick up?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah. I mean, all my powers in my nuts, so I get it.
And your bolts?
And my bolts. Mostly my nuts. But I will say, Andrew, I want to get this positive out of the way. One of my favorite things, and the reason that I love these video games based on properties is getting the 16-bit theme song.
Yes.
And this does that. I do absolutely love that when games would do that.
I didn't realize how many faceless people there were on Super Nintendo until I started going back.
Yeah, there's a lot. Yeah.
But I found this very much. There's a couple on the first level. There, I feel those little inchworms are cheap enemies.
They are, yes. They're very difficult to hit too because they're very small and they're on the ground, and they're really difficult to hit.
I think what also worked for you and Trevor is that you guys played it together because it is only a one-player game.
Yeah.
So it is a game where I was like, I'm frustrated and I'm done. But if I would have had somebody else that was like, let's play this, it would have been a lot easier to kind of
Uh,
refresh yourself to go back and try and do more
it was just more of a fun experience,
than,
and I think it had a lot more to do with being with a buddy,
yeah,
maybe more so than the actual game itself. Yeah,
yeah, because I do like the premise in a way, but then I don't like the enemies. Like I've only did the first level
I
and
can fix this game fairly easily. I feel
how?
one of the easiest fixes would be that just for example, the first level is you're on like a dinosaur set,
Hmm.
right? And it's like a prehistoric set. Think Jurassic Parkish, which makes sense because this is a game from the 90s. Uh, don't make it where a dinosaur takes 10 hits to take it out.
And why do they breathe fire?
Great question. Great
Why is
question.
there fire breathing? And I got the saw. So I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my goodness, this is gonna be great. This has got to be an upgraded weapon because it's later on in the stage. The saw is worse than the nail gun.
Yeah. Yes,
I
it is.
I was like, oh my goodness, here I go. And then you shoot like the energy wave out of the saw and you're dead. Because all of a sudden they got way too close to you because you didn't stun them enough or something crazy.
Yeah. It's the other thing too is it's it's actually a pretty difficult game,
It's
but it's difficult artificially. And by that I mean, again, the enemies take way too many hits than they should. And this is a platforming game in which the platforming doesn't feel super precise,
no.
which really hurts it a lot. If they had cleaned that up, that would have really helped this game a lot.
You do get a lovely Batman grappling hook where I feel like they're really going hardcore on
Yeah.
the 90s type stuff where it's like, hey, Batman has a grappling hook.
Yeah.
Like Tim Allen.
I was trying to think of there was a video game, it was a Nintendo game where I can't, was it Bionic Commando? Is that the one I'm thinking of?
Yeah, where you don't jump.
Yeah, you just
Go
use
ahead.
yeah, that's what that kind of reminded me of, except for Tim can jump. But yeah,
He could jump, and it wasn't quite sure whether you should jump or use your grappling hook.
right.
That was the other thing. And like you said, the jumping didn't seem precise. I love the animation if you stand still long enough and he flexes.
Yes, yeah, yeah. That's another thing too that I really loved about 90s video games. I would do it all the time with Sonic. Like you just don't touch the controller for like a
Yeah.
minute and it would start doing animations. Like, hey, what's taking you so long? I remember the Ninja Turtles would do that on some of their games, that type of
Oh yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, Tim flexes on you. And then I think after a while it does bring up like an arrow or something where you to go because you got to get the crates and you got to collect the crates because I guess the crates have the tools in them or the
Yeah.
pieces. I don't know. This reminds me a lot of Silver Surfer in a way when it comes to that. Like you got to go through all the levels in Silver Surfer.
Another very difficult game, yes.
And then the way that you're going is you're so concentrated too. I noticed myself, and you could call me a big dummy, but I noticed myself where I'm so concentrated on where I need to go that I miss out on that little worm and the spikes.
The spikes were the worst.
I always get hit by the spikes
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
because I'm just
Yes.
so like engaged on where I need to go to get the next crate and keep on going that way. So when I do post the gameplay on this, either up top or somewhere, that's not Johnny. That's me. So at
Well,
me on
just
that
so
one.
everybody knows, mine wouldn't be that much better. Just,
You can at me on there for that one
no,
because
you could, no. You know what, Andrew? Power of friendship. You at both of us. You at Andrew. You're at me.
because I probably gave this game a good 20 minutes before I got a little frustrated. Was like, you
Yeah.
know, I'm done. I have a feeling though this game probably would if I would have rented it. Thank goodness I had an older brother that probably talked me out of renting a lot of bad games where
Yeah.
I always would like to go back and look at old Nintendo video game art to go and see which games I would have rented to see if I would have actually enjoyed them.
Yeah.
But this one I think would have been a ruiner. Not Echo the Dolphins scale ruin weekend, but this one I don't know. I feel it's banking on Jurassic Park a little bit because when
Oh yeah,
I'm trying to see when it came out, 94.
yeah,
Jurassic Park's what, 93?
yep.
So it's banking on Jurassic Park. It's I don't know. The enemies are just so super cheap in every aspect.
That's the worst. That it's got the bad combination of cheap enemies, and it's very easy to get lost in the game. Trying to because you got to find certain things, and there's no manual because
It,
men don't need no stinking manual.
that's the worst part about it because I spent like the beginning part of the state. They do give you a little brief point where you don't have any enemies, which is
Yeah,
kind of nice where you can figure out the controls, but the weapons don't get any better.
no. There's a saw. There's a, a blowtorch. I'm trying to remember. And of course, you start out with the nail gun, which is probably the best one.
It really is because it's a long distance weapon and you could kind of hide. I remember there was one dinosaur where I was trying to get the crate and I kind of like hid in this little thing and I just shot the nail gun just to shoot the
Yeah,
nail gun and it would hit it sporadically.
and there's also a bunch of like hidden passageways and stuff too.
Yeah, I found one. Oh, and then if you get a hard hat, that's like the star.
Yeah, yes, which makes sense for this game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, Andrew, I wanted to find out what the big publications at the time thought of this video game.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna I was gonna do that too because
So I found
definitely
it.
next me.
I did find it. I was a big EGM kid. That's the magazine that I subscribed to, Electronic Gaming Monthly,
Ooh.
and they would score it out of 50. What do you think they gave this game out of
Oh,
50?
I can't guess because I kind of cheated because I have that pulled up.
Oh, 33 out of 50.
I'm sorry, Johnny.
That's fine.
Our
Game Pro.
communication's awesome on this show, guys.
Yeah, it really is. Game Pro. Well, in your defense, Andrew, I literally ask you like 3 times a week what we're
You know what?
doing.
I looked at I only memorized the first one because I got a little bit of a short-term Johnny memory. So
Okay, all right. Well, that works.
I
All
clicked
right,
off.
Game Pro, another big magazine of
Love
of
Game
our
Pro.
time.
That was my
Out of
favorite.
20, what do you think they gave this? Gave a score for this out of 20?
Out of 20,
Yeah,
probably a 9 or a 10.
a 14, which is way higher than I thought.
That's
Uh,
great.
and let's do one more. Let's do Nintendo Power, another classic from ours, and they also score out of 20.
Oh, and it's a Nintendo product. Oh, they probably gave it a 20 out of 20.
They were pretty biased, I will say that.
Would
But I will also say Nintendo usually themselves make pretty great games.
yeah,
No, this did not get a 20 out of 20. I'll give you that hint. It is not a full
15.
a 12 out of 20.
I still think these are all way too high.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Game Pro let me down.
Well, GamePro actually said this was basically like an updated Pitfall, but with power tools. That kind
Yeah,
of makes sense.
I would say the difficulty level on this is I know a lot of people might get mad, but for if you're a casual video game player and you're not a person on YouTube that sits there and does these long let's plays after you play the game for hours and hours, and then you tell us on how easy it is to beat, which
Yeah,
don't tell me that. Uh I feel it's like the first Ninja Turtles of difficulty. It seems to start out as fun and then it just goes to frustrating.
yes, very quickly. I
It's
think the frustration outweighs the fun.
I think it's a funstration game. There you go. Ooh.
Yeah, yeah, which I usually only get once a month. So the thing that the difficulty really hurts it. Now, you can find full videos of this on YouTube where people play through it who are really good, where they know
Yeah.
where everything's at. And it's actually pretty fascinating to watch that. They know exactly where to go, and they could get this game done in like 2 to 3 hours. But that's not me.
No, that's not me either. Like I said, I got about a good 20 minutes and I was like, I don't like this game. I just there's this I get I was at first I'm like, okay, it's pretty fun. And then after a while, I started making stupid leaps of faith.
Yeah.
I thought I was doing better because I got a more powerful weapon. Um, it's very much a memorization game, like you said. If you don't know where you're going, there's nothing you can do.
Right. Yeah.
You're going to be wandering for hours. Too many stupid cheap enemies. Uh, the pterodactyl that drops eggs, and you can't. You just got to run by half of the enemies.
Yeah.
There's no point of standing and fighting. I'm trying to think what else really just irritated me. Um, no manual. I
Yeah.
understand real men don't need
It's
a
a great joke. Like it's a great joke, especially for the 90s. But come on.
yeah. Like you need that. You
Yeah.
there's today's games where they give you a tutorial just before you start playing it.
Yeah.
You need all of that stuff. Uh yeah, it's I would say it's and then they're banking off of Jurassic Park because why would a big movie set be also on a TV? That's what got me with the stages. Is
Yeah. Because
why would
here's a little behind the scenes because I know this
okay.
just because I am very familiar with a little show called Boy Meets World. Uh all these ABC shows were filmed on the same lot. So
Oh
if this was being quote unquote realistic, which it's a video game, we get it. But you should have been able to like go into the sets for other like I want to be able to like go visit Urkel.
yeah, like you could go to the Full House.
Yeah.
That sounded horrible there. Full House,
Yeah. But
Boy Meets
whatever happened
World,
to the beast?
or even do. Wasn't there other shows that they would do? Like, wasn't there a cooking show or something that he was kind of like a rival?
Yes.
To?
Yeah. Yeah.
Go through her set. Maybe she has one of the crates or something. Go
And
through.
they always do um what do you call those episodes where they would be on site somewhere? They would do that a lot. You could do that.
Yeah,
Yeah. Like he would always like they visit a construction site or they're building a new house.
no,
Or and you could throw in some fun car stuff too because you know he was always building that hot rod. All kinds of stuff you could have done.
there'd been a driving stage,
Yeah.
or maybe that's what you needed to build. We don't need a Binfer line of Tim tools or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel now I'm getting what you're saying, where it just seemed like it missed the mark on a lot of different things, and it was just trying to bank off of the home improvement name.
Very much so. But for me, again, the biggest sin that this game does is that it almost gets there but doesn't stick the landing whatsoever. It's like you were saying, a giant leap of faith that it does not land.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. But are we ready to decide on this, Johnny?
If we needed this,
Yeah.
yeah, you go first because I'm honestly pretty conflicted here.
Uh okay, so I'm not much of a platformer type of guy. I've noticed throughout the years I'm starting to get back into regular video games. I was very much of more of a sports type person, first person shooter.
Yeah.
So platforming has always been a little rough considering I used to once again every once in a while when he wasn't being mean to me, I would just be like, "Hey, can call my brother over and be like, "Hey, make this jump for me. Do this."
Yeah.
So that's probably where had a lot of practice, but considering the source material where it is, I understand the popularity of the show. You need to sell video games to a wide variety of audience. I believe we just didn't need this at all. I think without a home improvement game, we just didn't need it. I think there's some other properties maybe out there that could
Would
have
adhere themselves more to a video game. Yeah.
yeah. Great example is we got Knight Rider like a year or two after it got canceled.
Yeah.
But Knight Rider still had some sort of popularity. We never got a Thundercats game for any console. Captain Power probably would have been way better going that route. I
Yeah,
mean,
all
there's
kinds of
just
chrome.
other
Yeah.
things that I feel fit more into the game sphere than like taking a sitcom and then making it into a video game. I feel sometimes is that shoving the round peg into a square hole. You're trying to get it to
Yeah.
fit a media that's not really made 100% for it. I mean, you could get it. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some work, but it doesn't actually mean that it should like go there, go in there or anything or be in that sector.
Yeah, I was trying to think of what sitcom I would have liked them to make a video game out of from the 90s.
I would love to find like a ROM hack of the Full House Tournament Fighter that I saw, but I think that's more of a fun type thing. They didn't
Yeah.
like produce that. That was just a fun type thing where
Yeah.
they took time for this.
I agree with you completely in that we don't and didn't need this, but I'm also kind of glad that it exists. And not because that it's good, because it's not good, but it's one of those games where when you're talking to somebody and you can bring this game up, like, hey, did you know they made a video game about home improvement? It can be
Yeah.
one of the, it's almost like a trivia answer in a way. So I think it's fun that the game itself actually exists, but it's a single player game that thinks that it's as good as like a Metroid or something, and it's nowhere near that.
No, there's
The music is probably the best part, and that's because it's just taking the theme of the song and the theme song and making it 16-bit. Uh, I didn't hate it, but it's very, very mid to below mid. So I'm going to agree with you. We did not need this.
it'd be like, hey, let's make a Cheers game.
Yeah.
You know, what do you? Well, you could do that pretty much Tapper, but let's make
I was going to say,
game where
yeah,
you're opening up a new Cheers and you got to go find the stuff, but you have to traverse. I don't know this.
You know what you could have done?
Better, the streets of Boston.
You know, this is just off the top of my head. One of my favorite types of games during that era was like your RC Pro-Ams and your Rock and Roll Racings, where it was like an isometric view of a racing game. Famously, there's very famous episodes of Home Improvement where he would race lawnmowers. Bam, there you go.
Like a Mario Kart and stuff.
Yeah.
Like that would make, and you get to pick through,
and as you're going, if you win, you can upgrade your lawnmower, give it more power.
I think that would be better.
Yeah.
Because you could put like Wilson in there, but put like a little, he's the only one with the windshield. You could have the kids rate. No, because then some mother would be like, oh, why is the kid racing the lawnmower and you can upgrade it? This is not good. I didn't have one of those. If you've listened to this show, not this guy. Not this guy. No,
my mom, honestly, my mom would not have said anything.
I don't
like, who cares? It's a video game. Who would have cared?
Yeah.
We didn't need this, but I'm glad that it's there.
It's good to know that it's there. Like you said, it's fun to be like, hey, did you know they made a home improvement game?
Yeah, it's just it's a more of a fun trivia answer than it is a fun experience to actually play.
I guess it was supposed to be released on Sega Genesis, but
they decided not to do it.
Yeah, and you could tell from that point because pretty much every Super Nintendo release licensed property also had a Sega Genesis release.
Yeah.
Like I prefer Aladdin on Sega compared to Super Nintendo.
Well, the Aladdin Sega is and I'm not trying to be the fanboy here because I grew up a Genesis kid, but it's the better version. I think everybody kind of accepts that, and that's because it's honestly the exception to the rule. Usually, it's the other way around.
Yeah, I've noticed that. I've played some Three Ninjas. Don't want to brag or anything.
Somebody's gonna get laid in college.
always do that to my wife. You probably got one of those best, like, tell me your husband will never cheat on you without telling your husband will never cheat on.
Yes.
Is I is I sent her a picture of Fortress Maximus going, you know what? This guy looks pretty cool. And she's like, what is this? And why is it so expensive? Like, it's Fortress Maximus. Hello. Needless to say, I got Fortress Maximus. She pre-ordered it for me off of Big Bag Toys, not a sponsor. And
That's
he will
love,
be
man.
here. And he will be here in August. Well, I don't. This
That's
is
a beautiful story.
this is my problem with life is I don't know how to connect with other adults other than like you and like this group because they're. Uh, I had to do concession stand work, so I'm there with another father, and I'm like, and we're watching the game and he's like wanting to talk about his daughter and how she's playing and all like the instructors that they go and I'm like, yeah, dude, I don't care. Do you I don't want to go, do you collect He-Man Masters of the Universe Origin line? Like,
I think me and
like
you are we're still kids when it comes to trying to make friends. Because when you're a kid, all you need is like to find that one thing, and you're like, oh, you have a Sega Genesis?
yeah,
Bam, guess what? You're friends.
yeah, no, not me. I'm like, oh, I got real dorky at work too when they were like, so who's your favorite comic book hero? I'm like, are we talking Marvel or DC? Are we talking
That's how what
comics?
I would. That's what I would do too.
Are we talking comics? Are we just talking the movies?
I mean,
Like,
I can go
oh,
mainstream, or I can,
yeah. I
yeah.
said Cyclops, and they were like, I don't even know who that is. I was like,
Oh
oh,
well,
so we're only talking about movies.
yeah, yeah, they
I was
are.
like, that's different. So I said, you got to watch when you talk to me about certain things because I'll,
You put
I'll,
some respect on Cyclops' name.
thank you. You do. That
I
man
do.
made me feel comfortable to wear glasses.
There you go.
You got to have representation somewhere.
Yeah.
But that is it. We did not need home improvement for the Super Nintendo, not one bit. But you need the Nostalgia Funhouse and to check it out. BICBP Radio Network, or wherever you get your podcast. Here on YouTube as well. If we film it and we put it up, you can check it, or you can just listen to the podcast. Let's plays, unboxings. Still working on another top five. Um, I think that's about it, right, Johnny?
Just remember that no matter
I was
how
getting scared.
bad, how bad you think you look, you don't look that bad.
With that being said, what may not be nostalgia for you may be nostalgia for some.
Oh!